All right, Skipper.
3, 2, 1. Let's go! We got it! Yes! Yes!
He was in it!
I was in.
What? I didn't think that. If you would have bet me, if someone would have bet me before that, I would have said you weren't going to come in on that.
Was it the gray hair or what was it that did it?
Why the judgment? No,
No judgment.
No judgment. No, this is a judgment-free zone.
that was awesome. That was awesome. It was a perfect way to start the afternoon. We have bellies full of food. People are kind of winding down. Sometimes people get caught in boring talks at these events, and they're sleeping. They're nodding off in their chairs. But not here at the Icon Live. Icon Live, we are talking about what is happening and how we are changing the world, right? Because that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to get better. Integration, effectiveness. How do we get better? How do we inspire to get better? Where are the mentees that are ready to learn? And where are the mentors that are ready to teach? Do their philosophies match when it comes to solving problems? Do their philosophies match when it comes to figuring out what is next? What is next? We have all these options. Machine learning and AI and geophysics and petrophysics and geology at its core.
We have all this data, right? And how are we going to integrate it, and how are we going to become more efficient as an industry?
Where are we focusing? Where are we focusing? So it's an exciting time. We're absolutely excited to be here. And Dr. Roche, and sir, your name?
Dr. Sena.
Dr. Sena.
No, Sena, Arcangelo Sena.
And how do you guys know each other? Welcome to the Icon Live.
Yeah, what's the history?
Well, I knew of you. You were at ARCO and one of the leaders in developing AVO that was coming out of ARCO at the time. And then together we were
AVO.
at...
What? You were on those projects?
Yeah, back in those days. Eh?
Back in those days.
Yeah. Strong foundation in the early work on anisotropy. And then we caught up with each other at Veritas, I believe.
Veritas, yes.
Yeah.
Were you working ARCO, Permian Basin, Alaska, offshore?
Was ARCO worldwide, actually. We were supporting I was in the technology group in Plano, Texas, supporting operations worldwide from Alaska, Asia, lower 48, South America, everywhere. So
That's awesome.
So that's,
how did you get there? Where your degrees and how did that go?
Well, my degree, I'm a physicist with a PhD in geophysics from MIT.
Okay.
So, and moved to Texas 30 years ago.
The rest is history.
The rest is history. So being
I took a more circuitous route. I got my bachelor's in geophysics from University of California, Riverside.
Hey!
Specialty in geothermal and earthquake prediction. Moved to Midland, Texas, and joined a company called GSI, Geophysical Service Incorporated. I was a seismic data processor and a service provider, and I would be contracted by the ARCO office in Midland.
Okay. You were operator. You were on the contracting service side.
Exactly.
Collect the data, put it into some format that your software was able to read it efficiently in and make some predictions, clean it up, provide visuals of the subsurface.
Yeah, and back in those days, so this would have been late 70s, early 80s, we acquired and processed 2D data.
Right.
A normal crew had 48 channels of information, and then some of the bigger crews got up to 96.
96. And now we just talked with Jumper on the show, and he said the new chute in the Midland Basin is 130,000 channels. 850 squares, right?
Something like that, yeah. The biggest shoot ever in Permian history. So.
Pretty wild, which is a fun fact that we learned about you. You were on the first 3D shoot in the Permian Basin?
Not necessarily the very first, but one of the first that got heavily publicized was the Dollarhide survey shot by Unicap, Andrews County, Texas. And we processed that. Alistair Brown picked it up for his very first book on 3D interpretation. So that was kind of fun.
That is really cool.
And the data set's still out there for universities to use and to see what they can do with it.
Good deal, yeah, going back to the Permian Basin, you were making comments at the beginning. So you mentioned the word integration.
Yeah.
There's a lot of technology. Even back when Steve and I worked in multi-component data, 9-component geophones and things like that kind of faded away a little bit due to cost and operational issues.
Sure.
But anyway, so as you go beyond, and all these technologies are available, AVO technology, data migration, all kind of good technology, but separately, they don't really do very well. So, but when it comes to unconventional development, for example, that integration of technology that have been around for a while. Sometimes it's a matter how do you put them together, and that's something I personally have been heavily involved in, how to put those pieces together in an intelligent manner, and it's been working well. So, but it's just pieces that are out there, but sometimes you don't put them into the mix, and it makes a big difference. And now, but companies are learning that, one faster than other company, but when you put together the seismic, the geological information, the geophysical information, the petrophysical, the microseismic, and then to combine them, you can integrate in multiple ways. You can use AI, or as you mentioned, the machine learning in cases where you have a huge amount of data that is hard to handle with normal tools.
Right.
So, but at the end, when you put them all together, it provides a product that is easier to interpret and communicate to, whether it's a geologist, a geophysicist, or an engineer. Now, number one. Number two, that there's a big gap in the industry. We look at people about with our level of experience, and then you have about almost a 20-year gap when you see the younger guys, right?
Right.
So it's another part of the job is really make sure that all this technology gets transferred in the experience to the younger. And we all have to take responsibility. I do personally. I mean, something like that there's nobody behind you. Back when I was at Arco, back in the old days, I mean, it was fun. It was almost like being in a great university, because you go there and they were the newcomer. I mean, I graduated from my PhD, and then you had the 5-year experience, the 8-year experience, the 10-year experience. There was like a little continuum of experiences all the way to the 30-year guys. So you learn from each other. But now you have the 30-year, the 20-year, then they have like
zero.
They have a 10, and it's like it's not the same. But it's hard for the younger to learn. So you have to make this effort. I mean, this extra effort, which I do, because I know you're not going to be there forever. But it's also you bring them up, and they learn, and you get some rewarding. But that's part of it's just a matter of putting technology that has been around for a long time, but sometimes it's just how do you teach some of the new generation to really. That's the way you mix them. When you mix them, you have the power of this integration.
This is where we are.
I mean, this just ties back into that mentor-mentee. See what I did there? Mentor-mentee relationship. But I mean, especially for us, right? Because our industry experience is, granted, right? We've been born into this generation where we have all the software, right? And you guys were there as the software and the technology was developing, so you can see, you guys know the pitfalls with specific, software packages.
Naturally,
but with us, we're learning that on the fly. But you guys stepping in and saying, "Oh no, you're making too many assumptions here, right? You can't run X model without this data."
Well, it's a good comment you made, actually, going back to the old days. Like right now, software is available. It's okay. You should. I mean, universities should use them, and they do. Back in my days, okay, you are getting your PhD, you need a piece of software to do whatever process. Well, guess what? Nobody's gonna buy it. So you have to write it yourself. So that's the way we did. And so you do your physical work, but then you have to learn programming, and that's why you see a lot of good programmers are not necessarily people that went to study computer science. You see a lot of geophysicists, just because that generation there was no inversion. Well, you write your own code. I mean, and this is a pretty heavy code. I mean, it's not something you write overnight. You have to write the debug it, and so that was the generation that we. But in the process, you learn a lot. I mean, you learn a lot. But now, of course, a lot of things are commercialized. Things that you have to manually go in to read some files. I mean, you have to write the code to read that particular format. I mean,
understanding the nuts and bolts opposed to just pressing a button, right? Like what's actually happening when you press that button. When you put those inputs in, what is going on in the background?
And I'm glad it was that way, because sometimes you see something that is not right, and you know exactly. Okay, you know what, that guy in that particular line there's something that was missing. You get that thing because you've been there with under the hood, so you know how that works.
It brings today kind of a new trap for this generation or level of experiences. That back when, as Arcangelo was saying, when we were doing it, it was so laborious and intensive, and we didn't have the computer horsepower to iterate.
Yeah.
When you went through a solution, you had to check it step by step, because it just took so much time to get to an answer. Today, there really is a danger with a lot of the software available that unless the QC steps are in there and you hold on to the sense of what you're really doing, you can get into a local minima and find an apparent solution. And if you're not constantly cross-checking, you need to watch out.
You got to watch out. You guys, what a very interesting and real problem. We know that's true, but the reality of getting through the process QCing the data correctly according to the QCer, and then the mentee sitting there going, okay, I understand why you QC'd that, or I understand that, and transferring that knowledge is incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult to do. How do you suggest that communication starts?
I like it in the context of a multidisciplinary team. So if everyone's working from different angles, you got the people working from rock physics, maybe the acquisition, the processing, the quantitative interpretation. Everyone is watching how their components meet. Yeah. They're challenging each other's assumptions and checks and just seeing how the whole thing comes together. You end up with a stronger solution.
Yeah. You do that through software then. You'd have to do the software is the hub that each of those departments can go in from their own angle and expertise and mindset. They're coming into the software and they're looking at that curve going, wait, the curve doesn't see, that response doesn't make sense to my model. Why is it this way? And the rock physicist is seeing that same data in the same project at that same time and saying, no, that's the actual response. There was no washout. There was no problem in the petrophysics, right? Do you think, is it software that's integrating that? And we need to do a better job at how the software can help us transfer this knowledge?
Well, the software is one thing. Also, another thing also in terms of you say how to QC processes or things like that. One thing that I think is important. Most companies are doing, but to some degree, is to create some kind of a corporate memory when it comes to workflows. Because when you try to QC any process at all, I mean, especially when you talk about younger individuals coming behind you, I mean, having some high level or some workflows to go through the process is very important for the QC piece of it, whether you're trying to process data or interpret data or do special analysis. And the workflow that is a good vehicle to really keep behind you to people and capture that in some form of internal corporate memory online internally, because that's is key. So for me, that goes back to answer your question about you talk about QC now that's on the high level one now. Tactically, yes, this software involved, and how do you do that? I mean, how do you mix software? Because sometimes we don't have, and I don't think we'll have one platform doing it all. So so we'll always have to
dream about it.
when you get comfortable about this, some new tool comes out. And then you have to. I mean, that's the way it is. But then, but the workflows, if you put a workflow that is high level, wrapping all that really helps a lot. So that for me, that's one of the things that I think is working. But especially when you're not around, or some of the younger individual can take that, and then you can create variations of it. But I think that's something that we need.
Then it's that organic relationship. What do you think, Doc? You agreed? You like the...
Yeah, there should be a basic workflow, and it's kind of like you set out, this is the path that has worked before. These are the steps that we do. But I also like it when you can challenge the person's innate curiosity and creativeness to give them the freedom that they can explore side paths that either check the work or find something new. Wow. But at the same time, it honors, we've all gone down this path before. What if this is a better way? Or this basin requires this. I love the creativity that you bring in.
Right. You need to be the manager of all mentee and mentor relationships, it sounds like, because we have a generation, in my opinion, that wants to make an immediate impact on what they do. Right? You call them millennials. I don't know. You call them whatever you want. This is a new generation that has instant gratification at the phone they hold. They learned about quantum physics when they Googled it when they were 12. Whatever they read, whatever they understood at 12, they understood and read at 12, right there at their phone. And now you're putting them in a position where you're saying, you got to work for like 30 years and really grind through this and just follow my blueprint, and you're going to get through it. And maybe you'll make some discoveries, or sink or swim. But you're saying no, that's definitely not how this needs to happen. You have to create an environment for the young professionals to know that there are no limits. You can't waste your time. Don't come up with some crazy stuff that I'm not going to entertain. You're just crazy. I might fire you. It's so bad. But don't make it feel like they can't. Don't make it feel like you need to be so overwhelmed on landing wells and understanding whatever your specific job is. 8 hours solid. You got a 30-minute lunch break or an hour lunch break, and you're behind the clock and you're behind the program. You're never going to look back at the product and the decisions you helped make. You never look back. You're always fighting and fighting and fighting, and you got this ladder. in the vision, and there is no ladder. It's just a group. We're all in the same vehicle. We're all going up and to the right. Let's make more money with less resources. Let's live a better life. Let's get more sustainable energy with less energy to get it. We're all in that same vehicle, but you're providing a platform that's allowing people to open up their own philosophies and open up their own thoughts. And that is incredibly powerful, because I think it's a generation that's dying to do that. They don't have the skills to do it. They don't know how to do it, but they wake up every day and they come out of their house and they say, I'm ready to do something, and I want it to be massive. And you're providing that platform for them, and how you talked about that. In my opinion, I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
How do we do it? How do we get everybody to do that? So we need to work on creating a visual. We need to create this workflow of how companies need to work, how the industry can integrate, and how we can make these checks and balances between service companies and operators. And you guys should be on the board of this thing.
Well, one of the things is the integration of teams, which we have touched that already several times. Not everybody has all the expertise needed in what has Mario are. And integrating team, when you have a problem, work around that problem, put the team, especially the younger individuals who work in conjunction with some more experienced people, but integrated. So I'm trying to avoid the isolation that sometimes happens in many companies. Sometimes you have teams working in isolation, and then that really doesn't really help to achieve that goal for the next generation. The new generation of younger individuals, they are very creative. I mean, it's not fair to compare them with 30 years ago. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, they have better, their brain works differently. Let's exploit that. But if you expose them to an integrated set of things, they'll absorb it. I mean, they'll take, some people, sometimes you underestimate them, but they can absorb many things, but put them together so they can learn from all the different experiences out there. So any kind of problem, I see that a lot. We do that quite in my workplace. I actually work in integrated teams, and that really helps a lot, because everybody brings a little bit to the table, but at the end, everybody learns enough to really, you see them growing after a few years, some of the younger individuals, and they appreciate that. But the integration of team is really the key to really exploit the creativity of the younger individuals. So.
Yeah. And I think there's elements of, not just the older generation, but the newer generation. But if we break it up into technology steps, like the explosion of channel count that we could acquire the data with, or the computing horsepower we could put on a solution, a lot of times, for a period of time, you'll be boxed in by what the current technology gives you. And if you have a broad enough team, when that front can advance, you can change how you were doing something, because you don't have to honor that anymore.
Yeah.
A good example might be when we were constrained in channel counts, and we were concerned because when you have, say, a vibrator source, you generate a lot of surface wave energy, poor signal to noise on your field records. So we would put out long arrays, or maybe even compromise the low frequency part of the signal, because that's what you had to do to get an acceptable image at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
So you got used to that. And then all of a sudden we're recording thousands of channels, and you can back off and kind of go, wait, I don't need to limit at that step. We can do this. So now what we're seeing, we're trying to put lower and lower frequencies in the ground.
Right.
We generate incredible amounts of service waves, but now we have the sampling and different computer algorithms to then attack it in that step. So there's kind of a different generations across the technology breakthroughs as well. Computing horsepower is another one.
Yeah, that's a good point, because back in the old, 30 years ago, there was a lot of problem that it was impossible to solve, because it would be taking for a lifetime to run in a computer. Now that creates a lot of opportunity for the younger individual to go back and revisit some of the technology that theoretically there exist, but they couldn't really exploit them numerically just with a lack of power. But of course, big difference now. So that really opens up a lot of option for all formulation that can be actually used now and more efficiently.
I think it's fantastic. We got to wrap up the show. We enjoyed it so much, and we're honored to share these microphones with you guys, honestly, and to get your concepts. My wheels are turning so much on just how this gets done. And what you pointed out on this show, just this short period of time, is just, for me, it was fascinating to really think about it. Hopefully we can do it again. A longer show, a more detailed show would be awesome.
Yeah, really get into your careers
so
and
can
start
we have a
breaking it out.
30-second wrap-up each?
Yes, 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Okay, my 30 seconds, and people looking at me would laugh. I haven't said the word shear waves yet, but shear waves are where an incredible source of information is available to us in the subsurface,
And this is
especially for conventionals.
That's right.
We couldn't process it before because it requires a vector solution, not scalar. We got the computer horsepower to do it now. We got the channels.
That's
3
right.
feet.
Do
That's
it.
what we're talking about.
Okay.
Wow.
Hey, Tad.
Well, thank you for the opportunity
Yeah.
to express my thoughts on this topic.
Well, we enjoyed the heck out of it.
It was a blast. It was an honor.
Thank you, sir.
All
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're out.
And
All right.
Thank you all.